I got the alarm front kind of disconnected, but it's still, the main wire is still plugged in, and the power wire is down here, and it goes up through the telephone box, comes here, and it sneaks out and goes over to there. And I've got that unplugged, and I wanted to check all this stuff out. I was hoping this only had a couple mounting screws with just a small wire poke through the sheetrock. Well, that's not the case, because I can see there's a notch all the way through here, and this whole box is mounted with sheetrock screws all the way around the edge, and I see daylight right there and a slit right there. I might want to do a little bit more investigation. I could unscrew that whole thing to see exactly how big this hole is, but my guess is a square hole there, a rectangular. I know I'm going to have to patch that somehow. And here's the telephone. Disconnected the front right there, just unscrewed that and gently pulled that away. And now this hole is a round hole. It's not like a hole cut out all the way, you know. And I wanted to see on this carefully how this got hooked up, and some of these wires, they don't hook up all the way. There's 4 or 5 wires here that are just cut off and not hooked up. This whole thing gets connected with only a couple screws or a couple wires, and it looks like I'm in luck. There's 2 sets of wires there, and you see that? Looks like they're both going down. So I think they come into the house down low, and then they come fishing up through the wall and out. So see, for that telephone, if I disconnect this, I really don't want to disconnect those wires either. Not quite sure how I'm going to do this just yet. But these wires need to go back down so I can cut in a box underneath this little desk area. Okay, so I'm still checking this out. I think I'm going to take that. I'm going to unscrew this mounting box carefully and see how big this hole is, because I might be able to relocate this mounting box up, maybe up this high, and cover up half the hole down here, half of it here. Maybe do just a little bit of business around the top and bottom, or looking at it. I'm not quite sure yet what we're going to end up having to do. Plus, this is shoved right tight to the countertop. Now, granted, the granite, say that 10 times fast. I don't know where the granite countertop is going to stop here, as opposed to where the backsplash is going to end. They may end up putting the backsplash right here. I might want to take that and slide it over to the right just a little bit, which I could do. I may ultimately have to patch this, and that patch might be better to patch the high one rather than move this up and patch the low one, because when you're in the kitchen, your eye is going to be focused more down low than it is up high, because as you're standing back further, you don't see this high patch as much. Either way, a patch is a patch is a patch at this point, right? So in hindsight, whenever you're getting ready to do remodeling work, you know, we retextured this wall and primed and painted it. There was wallpaper on this wall before. Anytime you start doing your project, look around and say, okay, do I want to relocate any light switches, any outlets, any alarms, any telephones, that kind of stuff. You can do that at the same time. Then you can patch all this stuff, you know, during the rest of your patching that you're going to do. There's a tip for you. See the top, I was wondering why the top had just a sheetrock screw in it and why I was hitting wood, and the bottom one had a long molly bolt in there. And that's because there was that fire block there. So I'm just going to remount that. I already know what's going on with the telephone, and then I'll pull this out of the wall. Check that out a little bit more. Actually, you know what? I'm going to leave this off because I want to see where that hole is, make a determination whether or not I can lift that up, right? I'll take this back out of here. Just be careful. You're working with telephone wires, they're very dainty, you know? Okay. Now I can take out these mounting screws, and they use sheetrock screws, and they just screwed it right into the sheetrock. They didn't even use any plastic anchors. Now, that's what normally you should do. You know, for a first time install, you'd think that the screws, you know, they use coarse threaded sheetrock screws, and they'll go into sheetrock, but if you undo them a couple times, once or twice or whatever, they don't really hold. It's not designed that way. They do have fatter screws you could use, or most people put plastic anchors in there. Well, that must have been too much for the installers to do. They weren't getting paid to put plastic anchors in for some reason. Now I'm being mean, huh? Okay. Gently take this out. It's probably just going to stick up there. We'll see. I'm still going to kind of hold on to it because we did texturing, we did painting, and whenever they installed it on the first time, if the existing paint was wet, that would make this stick too. Now gently move that and swivel that down like that. Being careful here. Jeez. Okay. Let's see what we got here. You see the hole there? They just cut a little square so that they could fish their wires up there. We've got this hole here. But this bottom one, remember there was wallpaper here that we removed. There's the remnants because I didn't take this off. I'm thinking it might be easier when all's said and done is just to go ahead and patch this hole here. Leave this one alone or something. You know, I don't think there's enough room. We could cut this up a little bit higher to allow the wires to go up a little bit so I could move this box up. But I think overall it's still going to be short. If I measure the back of this, I got 5 1/4. So if I hold this up there from the bottom of the bottom hole to the top of that hole, I got 6 3/4. If I hold it up 5 1/4, I'd still have to patch, you know, 1/3 of this hole and 1/3 of that hole. And then I've got 2 patches going on and little spray texture here and spray texture down there. I think I'd rather just do one. Worst case scenario, on this bottom, depending where this granite countertop comes out, I might be able to take this and slide it over to the left just a little bit and keep it off that edge. Okay. All right. I think that's all the inspecting I'm going to do today. Now I've got to screw that all back up. I know what's going on, and I know how I'm going to tackle my project, what type of material I'm going to get now for underneath here and over there and all that. And incidentally, when I turned off the breaker, I found out that it was a 20 amp breaker, so I know I need 12 gauge wiring for that. So when I go to the store, I'm going to get 12 12-2 with ground, and it's going to be in a cable, a black wire, white wire, and a bare copper wire. And I'm going to get that. I'm not going to use 14-2. That's for 15 amp breakers. Okay, it's very important. When you're adding plugs, adding outlets, in this case we're adding a new outlet to the existing system, aren't we? So we need to make sure that we run 12 gauge wiring. So all of that goes into play. And when I pulled out the box too, it was very stiff wires, and the 14 gauge is less. And I know, you know, no inspector would allow 14 gauge to be on a 20 gauge breaker, a 20 amp breaker anyways. Okay, hopefully you followed that through. So now I can go to the store, make my material list, and away we go. I'll be back later, don't worry. I'll show you the rest. And the other thing I'll get when I'm at the store, what do you think I'm going to get? Yes, I'm going to get some plastic anchors, so when I take this back out and reroute my wires and everything, I'm going to get some plastic anchors to remount this box properly. And see, with the wire that I know that goes up through here, I'm going to measure. I got to measure the length of that because that's all I've got. And then I can transpose that. In fact, let's see if I can do that. I can just kind of do that. Hold that there to there, 30 over to there, 36, knowing that if I go from there down, 36, let's see where that is. I do 16 and 20 down here, allowing for that. Actually, I can just kind of transfer everything. Here, let me do this right. 16 from the counter. Okay. Then I can hold my tape 16 inches. Because see, I've got the drawer here too. Go 16, and then I can hold this down to 36 and make a few marks, transpose them so that when I put my cut-in box down there, I'll have it up a little bit. And if I can match the same height as that, I will. That outlet over there, and I'll match it down there if there's enough length of that cable. If there's not, then I can just simply, before I install that cut-in box down there, I can raise that cut-in box a little bit before I put it in, because I don't want to have to replace that too. Okay, measure your existing material, see what you can use and see what you need at the store, and get on with it. That's all I have for this time, but I'll be back with more videos.